games in NBA history, 562. At age 40, LeBron is the second oldest player to make 7 3-pointers in a game after turning 40. Vince Carter did it after he turned 42. The Clippers lost at Oklahoma City last night, 116-98. A groin injury kept James Harden in street clothes. Amir Coffey led the Clippers with 26 points. The two black head coaches in the college football playoffs have made it to the semifinals. Penn State's James Franklin and Marcus Freeman of Notre Dame. Franklin and Freeman will face each other next Thursday in the Orange Bowl in Miami. One of them will be in the championship game January 20th. No black head coach has won a Division I national championship in football. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been hearing me guest host here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm having a blast. But I'm excited about joining the official lineup here at KBLA Talk 1580 starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. Start your day with First Things First and Dominique DiPrima at 6 a.m. Check out Tavis Smiley at 9 a.m. Tune into Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner at 12 noon, and then tap in with me on The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at 1 p.m. weekdays. I served 17 years in the U.S. Congress, and I can tell you it's going to be a rough 4 years, so let's navigate this journey together. It's The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Super good. Inglewood. Purple rain falling down on the prince of the coast where the sun shine all year round. Purple haze over landscape, still I hydrate in the lunch line with the smog and clouds. Would start me out. This song's in the key of life, and love is in need of more. Young from Inglewood, barefoot on the cedar floor. If black music is the blood, then my heart has been beating more. Rapidly, happily, I look back on Afeni Shakur. Her son paved the way. Now all eyes on me, cause I'm young, black, and gifted. Nina, all eyes gon' see. If you swung back when faced with a challenge that's meant to break you and balance scales, you ain't average, now throw your hands on 3. Gon' put them up for black magic.
Black excellence, black habits, this black medicine, everything
black chucks, everything.
Everything
Black hug, black love, everything.
Praise black Jesus, play black Moses, give them flowers while they still give black roses. Everything
black tie, black ride, everything.
Everything
black pride, black lives, everything. Skin noir, friends noir, here you are, black. Everything you need, better believe you are that. Skin noir, friends noir, here you are, black. Every time they hear this, they gon' say he made an anthem. Life ain't a panda, it ain't black and white, it's a canvas. Spike Lee your dreams and Bruce Lee your tantrums. 2-3 that bull, then go Michael Jordan, go Samson. Knock down the walls around me, strong and dark and so handsome. Everything around me is shining dark and the time is divine. I found a spark when the clouds leak and the rain fall and I found peace. Black as the concrete, black as the street that's lined with the palm trees. I'm black as the night sky when you broken your radio bacon just don't meet. Black as the bottom of your taste.
Happy Freedmen Friday. I'm black enough for you. Yes, indeed. It is time to talk reparations. Try to be part of the solution around this issue. We are part of spreading correct information, different perspectives, actions that are taking place in states and cities across this nation, and letting us not only be informed, but be part of the momentum, part of those wins that are happening. And so that's what this is all about. We do it every Friday in the second hour. And just to be clear, because some people got, in their feelings the other day, the third hour could be whatever it is. Today, the third hour is open phone, so we can keep talking about reparations or whatever you want. I'm happy to be joined by a lead organizer for Coalition for Just and Equitable California, and the ARCC, the American Redress Coalition of California. Those are grassroots organizations that are working for reparations and reparative justice for descendants of U.S. chattel slavery living in California. Chris Lodgson, welcome.
Good morning, Dominique. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Same to you.
Yes, yes.
And we start off our new year with our work cut out for us in California in the reparations space. So, I mean, I guess we can start with those pressing issues. Know that even though there has been some activity in the state legislature, including what appears to me pretty interesting, a piece of legislation introduced by Assemblymember Isaac Bryan. The actual official session opens next week, right?
Yes. So technically, the 2025 season actually started in December of 2024, December 2nd, but the legislature then went on recess, and they come back next Monday, January 6th. Yes.
Oh, what a great day to come back. I mean, the anniversary of the attempted overthrow of the U.S. government.
Perfect time, man.
Yes, indeed. So, okay, so in December it officially started.
Yeah. Yep.
And Assemblymember Isaac Bryan introduced a piece of legislation which is meant to give, and this should be of particular interest, I would think, to lineage-based reparationists like yourself, that that would make descendants of enslaved Black people in America, or enslaved Africans, or enslaved persons, I guess, get priority within the Cal State and UC university systems, which is interesting. I think it'd be great if it happened. What did you think about this piece of legislation?
So initially, I read it like everyone else did. I thought it was interesting. It initially jumped out to me as not a reparations bill. It read to me first more like an affirmative action styled kind of bill, because when we normally think about admission preferences in colleges and things like that, we normally think of affirmative action, right? That was a lot of what the affirmative action movement was about, and a lot of what the court and legal challenges have been about over the past.
Well, that's the avenue that they took. But I think if it's specifically targeting the group of people impacted by, U.S. enslavement, that would be reparations, wouldn't it?
No, not necessarily. No, not everything that is specific.
I mean, I'm not saying everything, but I don't know. Where are you on it now? Because to me, it seems very solidly reparations.
I still see it as a affirmative action style bill. I mean, clearly to me, in the bill itself, it doesn't mention the word reparations, even once.
Okay. So you want it to say reparations?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say it's a reparations bill. I haven't heard the author call it a reparations bill. To do admission preferences is not technically one of the recommendations of the California Reparations Task Force, as you know, that worked for 2 years and produced that
1,200 page, but it does say that education equity is a priority, and it seems that this bill, I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight in that sense, but it seems that it's a lineage based bill that's meant to create opportunity for the impacted class, and so in education. And the thing about affirmative action is that it was applied to education, true, but also jobs in other areas. So to me, the definition of affirmative action shouldn't be the area of harm, but what type of solution is being proposed within that area of harm. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. However, this bill to me reads more like an affirmative action bill, because of what we normally think of when we think of affirmative action. We think of admission preferences.
Okay. So, what? So you don't see that as connected in any way to the legislative package of, or not legislative package, because we know what happened with that. We had a betrayal by the California Legislative Black Caucus. They basically threw their constituents under the bus when it came to reparations by not putting those bills up for a vote. And then the ones that did come up for the governor to sign, he did not sign, and rather cynically cited the fact that we didn't have a Freedmen's Affairs Agency.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
As a reason for not signing them. So, I mean, we know that's why I don't want to say package, but I say you don't feel like it's even connected to,
No,
even though
no.
it could create a court test for a lineage-based formula.
It could, if the bill is successful in getting into law and it's applied. But to me, this is more of an affirmative action bill, again, because it's about admission preferences, which is, what we normally think of when we think of affirmative action. Interestingly enough, too, and I'm just giving you my own personal opinion here. So if you read the text of the bill, also, again, one thing to note is that it doesn't mention the word reparations at all. And I'm not speaking about whether or not it's a good idea or not to do admission preferences. I'm just, to answer your question directly about whether or not I see this personally as connected to reparations, I don't. Again, this is something that, if you read the language of the bill, again, doesn't mention the word reparations at all. And then if you read closely, too, it says something like the UCs may do admission preferences. That, to me, is an option, right? So, like, you want the word to say, like, shall. You want if you wanted admission preferences, you want the UC to be required to do admission preferences. And right now, at least my reading of the bill, it doesn't require the UC to do admission preferences. It says they may do admission preferences, which is kind of what they may do right now also. Like, they may do that right now, too. They don't, have anything stopping them from doing admission preferences for the descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. So, again, to me, this is more of an affirmative action style bill. May or may not be a good idea. I'm not speaking about the, whether or not it's a good idea or not, but this is not, to me, a reparations bill. We have a pretty clear and pretty, I think, good definition of what we mean by the word reparations. When we're talking about reparations, we're talking about providing tangible compensation and restitution for a group directly into their hands based on the fact that their human rights were violated by our government. Period, point blank, simple. And this, to me, at least looking at it right now, doesn't meet that definition, but I don't think the author is even trying to call it a reparations bill.
Interesting. So that was the only thing that we could call, as far as I'm aware, that we could call related to reparations. I saw it as that. I take your point. That happened
in
that.
There were two other bills too, right? Right. There were two other bills introduced also, if I'm not mistaken. The other two were introduced by State Assembly Member Tina McKinnon. Those, I believe it's AB 62, and then there's another one else. I'm going to forget the name. I want to say it's AB 57, but don't quote me on that. And those bills don't have a lot in them right now. They express intent to do some things that you may call at least related to reparations. One of them would, at least right now, it says in the language, it would, help to set some money aside to provide grants to descendants of people who were enslaved to buy homes. And then the other one says that it will provide some legal or some financial assistance to individuals who have their property taken by the state of California. So those,
which is that a recap of? Because I wasn't tracking those two bills. Chris, was that a recap of the Bradford bill that was already vetoed as far as restitution?
They seem to be so. Yeah, they seem to be. At least again, right now, there's not much language in them right now. They're what we call intent language bills. So if you read the language of the bills, they say the intent of this bill is to do X, Y, Z, and that usually is a signal that there's more language coming later. So we have to wait for the full language. But those are, to your point, you're absolutely correct. Those do seem to be like, people, or Member McKinnon in particular, bringing back some things that Senator Bradford brought up last year. Those two specific bills last year by Senator Bradford, Senate Bill 1007, which was the bill to provide grants to descendants to buy homes, and then Senate Bill 1050, which, as you know, got to the governor's desk and got vetoed, and that bill would have provided the return of property or compensation for property for people who had their property taken by the state of California.
When you say those two McKinnon bills, they kind of are a shell of, of the kind of state an intention, but they don't have anything in them. Does that mean that we really won't know what they actually do until the legislative session opens and they start getting amended and shaped.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. We with that intent language is usually a sign and a signal that there's more language coming, and that this is sort of a placeholder for other things coming. And so, as you just said, absolutely correct. When they come back from recess next week, and then through next week and through the rest of the year, really, there'll be updates and additions and amendments to the language of the bill. I also expect other bills to come out too, but you are absolutely right. There is more to be coming.
So we don't know. Okay, and I got to ask you this before I forget. So,
Sure.
do you think that someone's in here? I think it is Nita in the chat, but it's an interesting. Yes, a bunch of folks in the chat. It's hard for me to see because I can't scroll back too far on this laptop. But do you think that Tina McKinnon, who took a lot of criticism around what happened in August, partly because of the op-ed that she wrote in the Sentinel,
Right.
Basically throwing Senator Bradford under the bus,
Yep.
but also exposing that it was really infighting and not a philosophical thing that, was really made it look petty, the reasons for not delivering. And then Isaac Bryan, who took a lot of heat for showing up at the town hall. Nita says I'm running cover for him, or maybe that's Sarah. I think that's BS. I think we have to, be clear-eyed about what people are actually doing. But because both of them, he was in the town hall and then he came on the show, so he took heat. She did an op-ed, so she took heat. I think everybody also bears responsibility in the entire California Legislative Black Caucus. Do you think they're acting early like this is a sign that they're like feeling the pressure from the people and trying to make good on their promises to reintroduce these reparations actions and make good on what we were promised?
That is a good question. I have been asking myself that same question, and I don't have a good answer right now. I'm just going to be honest with you, and I say that for a couple of reasons, for one big reason, really. Last year, we were told that one of the big problems with Senator Bradford's bills was that he introduced the bills ahead of the rest of the caucus and by himself, right? So I was expecting that any bills that were related to reparations at all this year would be all introduced together at the same time, right? To say, hey, we want to come out the same time and do this in the way that we say we want to do it. But then when I saw bills introduced independently by folks like Member McKenna, and even, if folks were, I did see folks talking about Member Bryan's bill like it was a reparations bill too. When I saw those bills come out first independently, I was kind of confused because I thought that the idea was to come out together and, et cetera. So that to me, was sort of a mixed signal. But then on the other hand, to your point, coming out early could also be a sign that, hey, we are responding to what people think and want. I think the big thing that we are really, really waiting for and what we really want to see is the reintroduction of the bill to create the State Reparations Agency, the bill to create the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, because you can't do, or let me say it like this, it's hard to do anything else. It's hard to do, even if you want to call, Member McKenna's bills related to reparations, anybody's bills. It's hard to do anything if you don't have a way to verify who's eligible. If people don't have a way and a place to go to apply for reparations,
i.e. a bureau. Yeah.
Right. You need some kind of institution set up, and so that is really the next shoe that we are waiting to drop.
Okay, we're going to talk about how that happens, or if there's any movement in that area, plus what is planned. I know there's a lot going on, and some of it can be talked about on the radio, some of it can't, but we'll talk about the parts we can for the upcoming week, which is a big week for those of us in the state of California tracking reparations. And of course, you're always invited to call in. You can take your critique out of the chat and onto the old-fashioned radio at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, or hit me up on socials at KBLA 1580 or DiPrima Radio. You're listening to Freedmen Friday, and it's only right here.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Somebody bring out the confetti, baby!
Starting Monday, January 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 has a new midday lineup.
I'm excited.
Are you ready for Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, and E. Quarterly Corte back-to-back?
Oh, my God.
Are you really ready for all this smoke?
I'm ready, brother.
Yes, we still have Dominique DiPrima in the mornings and Zoe Williams in the evenings, but middays just got lit on KBLA Talk 1580.
We on fire.
All across America, people are talking about our new midday lineup. Starting Monday, January 6th, our KBLA 1580 app downloads are on fire because everybody's going to be tuning in.
Yes, I love you guys. You are the bomb.
Now would be a good time to hit up SMB at KBLA1580.com if you want folks to hear about your business or brand. That's SMB at KBLA1580.com. It's going up in 2025 on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's going up.
That's what I want.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has a program specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to end your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other IRS actions. Make sure you're getting the best options to resolve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima today for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The revolution will not be televised.
This is Brother Cornell West. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm full of joy and delight to announce that I'm joining the precious family at KBLA Talk 1580, founded and led by my dear brother Tavis Smiley himself. Yes, the name of the show is Truth Time, and I'll be working with the inimitable Nina Turner out of Cleveland, Ohio, sister of great vision, and we will be on weekdays at 12 noon. We will be following Brother Tavis Smiley's show. We will begin Monday, January the 6th. That's right, Monday, January the 6th. Get ready for a different kind of insurrection. We coming with Martin Luther King Jr. and Fannie Lou Hamer and Curtis Mayfield and Aretha Franklin, and gonna add a little Gil Scott Heron too, as Nina Simone sits at the center. That's right.
The revolution will be live.
That's what we gonna do. Please come with us on this fantastic voyage.
The revolution will put you in the driver's seat.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Right now we're talking with Chris Lodgson of CJEC, and really, I guess there's a lot of conversation going on in the chat, and some of it should emerge onto this radio talk. I wish folks would call in, but I can also bring those points up, 800-920-1580. But let's talk about Monday first. Monday's a big day. That is when the legislative session will open up. And we talked a lot last fall, about how to address that. What is the best way to move forward, to put pressure on folks? I know some people backed opponents of some of our black legislators in the general election. That was not super effective. We didn't have much of a runway for that. And I will maintain that if you really want to be impactful, it makes more sense to target someone in a primary when you can get in a pro-reparations candidate than to just go and support some Republican who's going to backstab you, as soon as they get elected. That said, how do you see the work that needs to be done next week in particular and moving forward?
Yeah, so that's a great question, too. So I think generally speaking, next week and the week after that and throughout the year of 2025 and into 2026, leading up to the primaries in 2026, right, because the next primaries, as you just mentioned, the word primaries, the next primaries are in 2026. I believe they're in June, either March or June of 2026. So between now and then, let's say, there's two general things that the reparations movement needs to be focused on, two general things. First is getting as much as we can and we want out of the current legislature, that's folks in the caucus and outside the caucus too, and folks in the governor's office as it concerns reparations. And then also working to put ourselves in a position to change the composition of the legislature to our favor, to be with the people and have the people that we want and that will do the things that we want even more. So there's two things that we have to do at the same time between now and, let's say, into 2026. And we can do those things. More in the immediate short term, though, I think there's a couple of things that the reparations movement also has to do specifically here in 2025. One, we have to expand our work outside of the Black Caucus. I think that reparations is something that every legislator, no matter your race, no matter your creed, no matter your color, no matter what, every legislature needs to own this issue. And also, secondly, you mentioned, folks in opposite parties. I also think we have to expand ourselves out of this one party approach also. I think we also have to give opportunities to folks outside of the Democratic Party who are serious and sincere and genuine, who want to do something around reparations. And those people do exist. I mean, think about the bill that we just talked about a few minutes ago, Senate Bill 1050, that bill that got to the governor's desk that the governor vetoed because there was no agency to implement it. Think about that bill. That bill got 72 votes out of 80 votes in the state assembly. So that means that there were all 62 Democrats who wanted to support it and 10 Republicans. So half of the Republican conference, more than half really. And then in the state Senate, that bill got 38 out of 40 votes. That's all 33 Democrats and 5 Republicans. That's more than half of the Republicans in the Senate also. So I think two things.
And that represents progress.
Out of the caucus and out of the party.
And that represents progress. I mean, that represents, to me, that means they're starting to get educated, because I don't think 5 years ago we would have got that vote, those Republican votes.
Never. Even though, I think one thing that good point there too. One thing that we don't talk enough about is that the bill to create the task force, Assembly Bill 3121, the bill to create the California Reparations Task Force, which was authored by now Secretary of State Dr. Shirley Weber, but then Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber representing the San Diego area. That bill got Republican support also. Right, so there are Republicans still in the Assembly and Senate right now who were supportive of that effort,
of the creation of the task force,
of that bill. So there are opportunities out there. The big point is we have to expand our work outside of the Black Caucus and outside of the Democratic Party.
Okay,
also,
we'll talk about how we do that. I've got news, traffic, and sports. Hard stop at the bottom of the hour. Let's put a pin in that on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. The 119th U.S. Congress will be sworn in today. The GOP controls both chambers for the first time in 5 years. House members will also elect a new speaker. Donald Trump is planning a major rally in Washington, D.C. on the eve of his inauguration. Amid a heightened terror threat level, Trump announced he'll be hosting what he called a victory rally you'll never forget for 20,000 of his supporters on January 19th. Senator Bernie Sanders disagrees with Elon Musk on H-1B visas, stating the program replaces good-paying American jobs with low-wage foreign workers. He argues it benefits billionaires by providing cheaper labor. And Apple TV Plus is going to stream live this weekend. The service will be free of charge through the 5th. This is the first time the company has done this, and it comes just days after it suggested that its content may soon be available to non-subscribers. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
Is this the tiger? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Another amazing performance for LeBron last night. LeBron dropped 38 points, 21 coming on three-pointers to help the Lakers beat Portland 114-106. LeBron tied Michael Jordan for the most 30-point games in NBA history, 562. At age 40, LeBron is the second oldest player to make 7 three-pointers in a game after turning 40. Vince Carter did it after he turned 42. The Clippers lost at Oklahoma City last night 116-98. A groin injury kept James Harden in street clothes. Amir Coffey led the Clippers with 26 points. The two black head coaches in the college football playoffs have made it to the semifinals. Penn State's James Franklin and Marcus Freeman of Notre Dame. Franklin and Freeman will face each other next Thursday in the Orange Bowl in Miami. One of them will be in the championship game January 20th. No black head coach has won a Division I national championship in football. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Here they come, y'all. Here they come. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Get out the way. Move.
First things first with Dominique DiPrima at 6 a.m. Tavis Smiley at 9 a.m. Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner at 12 noon. Here they come, y'all. Here they come. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Get out the way. Get out the way. Get out the way.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at 1 p.m. The D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show at 2 p.m. A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nee Quarterly Quartet at 4 p.m. Here they come, y'all. Here they come. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Get out the way. Get out the way. Get out the way.
Tune in weekdays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the talk of the town. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Here they come, y'all. Here they come.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let Mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're talking with Chris Lodgson. And, you know, he's a lead organizer for Coalition for Just and Equitable California. I just want to take a second, Chris, to really commend you for the work that you've been doing so steadily on this California reparations movement. I mean, I think, you know, maybe we take it for granted a little bit. I think you've been incredibly consistent and showing up, doing the work, reading the bills, holding people to account. And I, for one, really appreciate it. I was sad to hear, someone said it in the chat, I had been hearing rumors about this, that Assemblymember Bryan and some other legislators are thinking about going to deal with reparationists who are not even from California, notably folks from ADOS, in moving forward. And that seems It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, especially when you have people like yourself, CJEC, who have been doing the work in California, live in California. Why would you go and get people from out of state who have their own baggage and their own agenda?
Well, first, I want to thank you for the kind words. This is really a privilege. It is a blessing. I feel lucky to be doing this, Dominique. I'm just going to keep it real with you and to everybody who's listening and watching, like I normally do. I feel lucky. I feel blessed. This is an honor. I feel honored to have this amazing opportunity. If you would have told me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would be doing this, I would be able to be a part of this amazing historical fight, I would not have believed you. So thank you so much. I also want to turn that right back around to you also. Thank you for your work, and thank you for your presence, and thank you for lifting up the voices of the grassroots folks here in California. One thing I will say to your point, though, briefly is, so, we are very focused on our objectives, right?
Yeah, I think that's
important. Educating and raising awareness about reparations and passing reparations bills specifically for Black American freedmen, those of us who are descendants of those who were enslaved and emancipated in this country. That is what we are focused on. And that's what we're going to continue to be focused on. And we're not going to be distracted, and we will not be distracted ever by anything else. Everything else to us is noise. Really, it's only about that. But I will say, though, that one thing that hasn't been shared a lot publicly is that after the fallout, in the end of the year last year, there has been, and I said it at the Capitol, that there would be retaliation politically, from members of, the Black Caucus who did not like the way that we stood up and were very public about our displeasure and our disagreement with them. And that retaliation has been real. And so, I'm not surprised about all the kinds of things that may or may not be happening. To me, that just means that we're doing the right thing and that we're going in the right direction. And that, to me, emboldens us and encourages us to keep doing the things that we are doing. What
do you mean by retaliation, Chris?
So, I think you sort of, talked about one of them, right, which is one thing that happens when you say something out loud that a politician or elected official doesn't like is that they try to exclude you from the process of being a part of doing anything in the future.
Gotcha.
And that's that's obviously unfortunate. But I told our team this a bunch of times over the past several months. We have a God-given and constitutional right to petition our government for redress of our grievances. There is no excluding us from the political process. No one has the right to exclude us, especially Black folks. No one has the right to exclude us from the political process, and we will not be excluded no matter what.
Yeah, I also like the fact that you are focused. Billion is in the chat, Billion Godson, saying the reason that they're doing that is because they're still in their feelings, if not worse. And I think that might be true, but I also think some activists we are also in our feelings. So, and that can be good in terms of fueling action, right? Getting people to pay attention to what's happening this legislative session. But it can be bad because sometimes I think we are reactionary and we're not saying, to your point, you said there's two things we need to do. Get as much as we can get done out of the current group of legislators where we are right now. And number two, look at what needs to happen in the primary, right? Yeah. And for me, one of the things that I find frustrating, it seems to me that the agency, the Freedmen's Agency, and the funding mechanism that were not put to a vote last year, to me, those are priorities. And the question for me is not, what Republican can I support or what, the question for me is, what is the most effective way to get those two things and more passed? Yeah, and I think you point to some really good priorities. Those are top priorities for us. Also, there are some others. Also, I want to talk about those too because I want to help folks understand what we're looking for this coming year. So what are those other priorities in your view? Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, I mean the Reparations Agency and the fund
to support reparations funding are top priorities for us, as you just said. But also, we also have our eye on the state budget, the 2025-2026 budget.
Absolutely.
So we are advocating for this coming year additional funding, more funding in the 2025-2026 budget for reparations. We're advocating for for at least 5 years worth of funding for the reparations agency inside of the 2025-2026 budget. We're also advocating that the current $12 million that's still sitting there. If you think back to last year, for folks who don't know, for the first time ever, really, which was historic, our state put some money in the state budget for reparations. It was about $12 million. That money is still sitting there. And so that money we want to be allocated to support the funding for the agency in the next year to go toward that 30 or so for 5 years worth of funding for the reparations agency. So we want more money in the budget for reparations. And also, we want the state to introduce a guaranteed income program, direct cash payments program this year. We want to be able to do that this year. And it is, when we say this, we always hear, well, it's too soon, or we don't have the funding.
Right.
Well, last year, we put money in our budget last year in California, and I think almost everybody in the Black Caucus and the legislature supported this, and the governor signed. Last year, we put money in our budget to do a guaranteed income cash payments program for people in our state who are seniors. And that program is going to start at some point in the future. But we did, and we have supported a guaranteed income cash payments program here in California as recently as last year. Literally in our 2024 budget, while we were being told that we don't have funding, we were also watching a bill get passed to put a guaranteed income program up for seniors. Now, I think that's a good idea. We want the same thing, so we can do it, and we do have the funding to do it, and we want that to be in bill form and bill language this year.
Okay. I love those priorities. You also said, you also said you want to expand beyond the Black Caucus and expand into the Republican Party. Clearly, with the education piece, the Republican Party expansion has already started. My point about Republicans is so far, if you look at not just California, but other states, the legislation has been carried by Black Democrats. Now, true, our Black Democrats betrayed us, but I think we also have to use logic. Yeah. All politicians, we don't rely on them. We have to rely on ourselves. But that's a two-part question. How do you actually get a bureau? How do we get those two bills back? Because we've seen some shots fired as far as, well, we're going to do something. But how do we specifically get those? And if you look at the CLBC, the press release that they put out, they even said, well, as far as that funding piece, you're on your own, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not in those words, but pretty much that.
Yeah, they said, look to the author or something like that.
Right, who's no longer in office, right?
Right. You're absolutely right there. So I think a couple of things. One, I do want to acknowledge first that the California Legislative Black Caucus of 2024 is not the same caucus of 2025, right? So there are new people in the Black Caucus, right?
And some people gone.
Right,
yeah.
Right. We got some people gone, and we got some people there, all right? Some new people there. So let's first acknowledge that. And so I'm talking about folks like, Senator Laura Richardson, Assembly Member Sade El-Hawari, Assembly Member Rhodesia Ransom, Assembly Member Sharp Collins. So we have some new folks in the caucus, right? So the current makeup is different. So I think there are opportunities there, right? Those folks were not a part of the stuff that happened. I think we have to look for any and all opportunities, and that goes to what I was saying earlier about getting what we want, out of the current group now. Also, let's keep in mind that there were Democrats who were not Black Democrats who were very supportive of our work this year. I'm thinking of folks like Assemblymember Ash Kalra, who was in tears, in one of the hearings on the bill to create the agency and the bill to create the fund that we were just talking about in tears, expressing his support for this effort and saying directly to my face, who was sitting in the hearing, and everybody else who was sitting in here and watching, that cash payments, direct monetary compensation, guaranteed income has to be a part of this. So there are opportunities outside of the legislature.
That guy happens to be a progressive, just for the record.
Right.
Okay.
He absolutely
so so we got to have someone, and maybe it is one of those new folks, reintroduce those bills or introduce new versions of those bills.
Right.
And as far as expanding outside of the CLBC, the Black Caucus, and expanding, to me, it's always, especially when it comes to reparations, it's always policy over party. But I just don't, I'm not willing to be tricked. If I look at a person like Bill Asaley and I look at his track record, and he has opposed every single thing that would help Black people, funding for education, every single thing. And then he suddenly wants to me, that means you're playing me. It's not that you've suddenly seen the light. And then you go on Fox News and you say, well, we can't justify these payments. I mean, I don't have a problem. Come one, come all. Policy over party. I just don't want to be pimped.
Yeah. So, I think we have that same challenge with everyone.
Yeah. As we now know, right?
Right. I mean, when we learned that the hard way. And one thing about this movement is that, there's two big things about this movement to mention here. One, the current California reparations movement, the movement that we've been a part of, that we helped birth, is a nonpartisan movement. It is policy and people over party.
Yep.
In this movement, and this is part of why there's usually a lot of controversy and energy around the movement, is because in the movement we got conservatives, we got Republicans, we got Democrats, we got liberals, we got progressives, we got independents, we got people who don't do none of that also, and so that's a really interesting mix of people who are all supporting lineage-specific reparations.
And I have no problem with that, Chris, but to me, y'all elected your MAGA dude, so now deliver. Y'all been talking all this smack, and you know who you are, people in this movement, that, this guy, DJT is gonna do something, even though he has actually said out of his mouth that he won't. So now prove me wrong, please. I would be so happy to come on here and say, oh, you were right. Trump did deliver reparations, but I don't see it. I don't even see them calling for it.
So interesting. So I think here in California, we have, obviously we have our work cut out for us with the folks in the Democratic Party, right? Because our state, as you know, is controlled by the Democratic Party from top down. The Democrats have a super majority in the state. They can do anything they want without any Republicans at all.
Yep.
And like I said earlier too, we did see some folks in the Republican Party start to pay attention and even support some of the work that we have been doing. I think it's about being very specific and also very clear about talking to individuals in any party, really. Specifically and individually. Not everyone is the same. And there are Republicans, there are independents, there are Democrats who support these kinds of things, the kinds of things that we want. It's about just talking to them. I think one thing that happens, and this is what I've heard from Republicans that I've talked to, is that they tell me, well, folks don't even come and talk to us about this stuff.
That's interesting.
Like the first time they hear about the bill is when the bill is up for a vote. Or so like no one is even talking to them. And I think if you talk to them and you listen to them and they listen to you, you can get further, and we can get further than we have gotten. And again, because the Democrats have a super majority, they don't need any Republicans to do anything, which is all the more reason why it's so crazy that we don't have the kind of reparations policies and bills passed into law that we need right now, because if the Democratic Party is so much in support of the Black people, why aren't our bills into law right now?
Right. No, it's a good point. But Billion is in the chat saying Biden, Kamala, Newsom delivered, and that is not what I said. I said, but Shirley Weber's a Democrat, Steve Bradford is a Democrat, and even in New York, it was Black Democrats who made that happen. I am not saying every Democrat is perfect. I'm not saying that I'm going to be a stand for the Democratic Party. I'm just being strategic and practical. Who has moved the ball? The people organizing themselves on the ground.
True.
Organizations like yours, CJEC, and others, Black Lives Matter LA, etc., and certain Democrats that have introduced legislation. I just am saying, and this is fact-based, I haven't seen any Republicans introducing legislation, championing our bills. I do think you're right. It's interesting that they're telling you no one is talking to them.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. They say no one's talking to me. And thank you for coming to talk to me about this, because no one's, and you know, and also this is interesting. Let me think about it. Let me, I think personally, I think reparations should be something that conservatives support. I mean, this is about the government returning property that it took away from people. I mean, that to me, it speaks to conservative value. That to me speaks, but also here's one other point too. Right, all right, paying debts. I mean, that sounds like conservative talking points, but here's the other thing that's important about this too. I think the Democratic Party here in California and nationally too is not used to black folks having open and serious talks about which party we're going to support.
Yeah,
they're not used to that. I think that's healthy. That's healthy because it gets to that second thing that we talked about earlier about helping to change the composition of, you know, who's in power, which is what we have to focus on also.
Yeah.
That to me is healthy. And hopefully Democrats are listening. Hopefully Republicans are listening and take it seriously.
Yeah, I think that's right. Talking with Chris Lodgson, and I do want to hear your thoughts on the primary and what actions you would like people listening who are not in Sacramento to take next week when the legislature opens its business on Monday. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text PREP to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text PREP to 42424. That's PREP to 42424.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
That was another way I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. You know, I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
All right, time goes so fast when we're in this hour, Chris, and we only have a few minutes left. I want to hand them to you, but I want to give you a little to-do list here. You talked about part 1 was get as much as we can now, and that has to do with what's our call to action next week and what plans are shareable on the radio for next week. And then part 2, which is your thoughts on, you know, the primary election, which I believe is June 2026, if I'm not mistaken. So it's on you, sir.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And also just big shout out to you again, Dominique, and to the work that you're doing, lifting up and, you know, having this space for us to speak on this. So to the next next week and to the week after, to the weeks after, what folks here in California need to be prepared to do, for those of us who are supporting reparations, you need to be prepared to be in touch with your representatives next week and in the weeks after. We have from now to really February 21st, which is the deadline to introduce new bills this year. We have between now and February 21st to put so much pressure on the folks inside the caucus, outside the caucus, inside the governor's office also, which we're talking about today too, but I'm happy to come back and talk about that too, because the governor's office is going to be very much a part of what happens this year. We have to be prepared, folks, next weekend between now and the 21st of February. Be prepared to be in touch with your representatives. So you need to be very much connected to our website and our Instagram and our, Twitter, at CJEC official, et cetera, so that you can participate in the call to action that we're going to be asking you to be a part of from next week until the weeks and into February and after that too. Also, to your second point, we want folks to be this year, using the things that we want this year as leverage for what we want in exchange for our vote in 2026 in the primaries. Okay? So the thinking goes like this: if you want to be reelected, or if you don't want, to lose your job in 2026, then these are the things we want. These are the 5-10 things that we want. We want the reparations agency. We want the fund. We want the money in the budget for this year. We want the money from last year to be spent. We want the guaranteed income cash payments program. We want, et cetera, et cetera. We want these 5-10 things. If you want to keep your job in 2026, then this is what you want. Also, lastly, those folks who want to be elected officials, who are supportive of reparations, now is the time for you to make yourselves known. Yeah. Because we need new people in these offices. That is clear.
Yep. And so I looked it up. It's June 2nd, 2026.
June 2nd.
That the next primary is. And so
more than enough time for us.
Yeah. So that means, more than enough time, but it does mean being conscious now about if certain electeds are going to be targeted to be taken out in the primaries, who would be running, and what kind of support can be garnered for those persons, right?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
So, Ben, Chris, I feel like we didn't even cover everything, but it was still a really interesting conversation. Yeah, what about folks showing up? Is that something that makes sense for people to show up at the Capitol and let it be known that we haven't forgotten what happened on August 31st?
Absolutely. There will be multiple opportunities to show up to the Capitol this coming year. Again, stay tuned to our social media, our website also. For those opportunities, there will be multiple opportunities for folks to show up. But definitely this year, we want folks to be showing up more. So that means at the hearings, at the votes, and in between the hearings and the votes also, we need folks to be showing up. And especially between now and February 21st, there'll be a lot coming out next week about that too.
February 21st. I wasn't tracking that. That's a deadline. If they're going to introduce it, that means if it hasn't been done by February 21st, they ain't going to do it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So it's CJEC, I think it's _ official, CJEC.
--official.org.
Okay. Yep. And that's the same on the socials platforms as well.
Yes. At CJEC official on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that.
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much and yes, definitely let's do a show on what's happening in the governor's office.
Yeah.
And we're keeping our eyes on Sacramento next week for sure.
Yes, we are. Thank you again, Dominique. Appreciate you as always.
All right. Thank you. We got news, traffic, and sports, and the phone lines are wide open. If you want to say it, now's the time to do it. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. The 119th U.S. Congress will be sworn in today. The GOP controls both chambers for the first time in 5 years. House members will also elect a new speaker. Donald Trump is planning a major rally in Washington, D.C. on the eve of his inauguration. Amid a heightened terror threat level, Trump announced he'll be hosting what he called a victory rally you'll never forget for 20,000 of his supporters on January 19th. Senator Bernie Sanders disagrees with Elon Musk on H-1B visas, stating the program replaces good-paying American jobs with low-wage foreign workers. He argues it benefits billionaires by providing cheaper labor. And Apple TV